Welcome back onto this now. Human rights organization #AfricaForPalestine and its partners are protesting outside the Miss South Africa head office in Morningside, Sandton. They're calling for the boycott of the Miss Universe pageant, which will be held in Israel next month. The protest is supported by, among others, the ANC, EFF, NFP and Cosatu. SABC News reporter Khayelihle Khumalo is tracking that story for us. Khaya, thank you so much for joining us. You've obviously been speaking to various people across the afternoon today, one of them being Chief Mandla Mandela. What did they have to say? What is the protest about? Talk to us about the developments there.
Well, that's right, Unati. So obviously, Chief Mandela is one of the key organizers behind this particular demonstration. So his message was very clear that Miss South Africa should not go to Israel, especially in light of the ongoing situation, really accusing Israel of committing a number of atrocities in Palestine and, to all intents and purposes, of occupying a number of territories that belong to the Palestinians. But of course, a main message as well that he stressed was around the issue of saying Miss South Africa, if she decides to go alongside the company that is the custodian of Miss South Africa, they should not be flying the South African flag. But on that, we'll continue to gauge more sentiments. Let's hear from some of the parties that are here. So let's hear from, of course, the party Al-Jama that is here. So, ma'am, you spoke there in the podium and you're saying, echoing the sentiments that Miss South Africa should not go to Israel. Why is it important for Miss South Africa not to proceed with this particular trip?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. So first of all, it's not just about Miss South Africa, but it's the history of the country that she represents and the flag that she'll be bearing. But more importantly, it's the system that we're fighting. Ours is not to demonize Miss South Africa. Ours is to say we stand behind you, because it seems like her voice has been silenced by the Miss South Africa organization. So ours is to say it's the system that is bigger than all of us. Her going to Israel for that pageant rubber stamps the fact that she is with the atrocities that have been happening in Israel. And surely that is something as South Africa that we do not stand for.
All right, ma'am. Thank you so much indeed for your time. The workers here are also fully represented. We see Cosatu's General Secretary, Mr. Njali is here. So tell us about the importance of your presence here. You're also really sending a very clear message about South Africa's stance with regards to Israel.
Thank you very much. Our presence here is to show solidarity with the people of Palestine and to send a clear message to the many young people here to understand the history and the background as to why you are here, and to make a distinction that we are not against the Miss South Africa, but we want to send the message that you can't celebrate in an apartheid Israel state, which is real apartheid people oppressing other people. You can't enjoy and celebrate and participate in that context. So in that regard, we came here voluntarily, and we appreciated the many political parties who, across their political differences, come here together and say and send one messages and make an appeal to our Miss South Africa not to participate in this.
And just once again, sir, looking at South Africa-Israel relations, we know that Pretoria is in the process of downgrading its diplomatic mission in Israel. For now, it's not clear as to how long is this process going to take. What would be your message to Pretoria in making sure that it's consistent with the resolution of the ANC when you go back to 2017?
Look, I think they are moving very slow. We understand some processes take time, but I think they are not sending a clear messages. We think now being reinvigorated by the Minister of Arts and Culture on cultural boycott by DICO, we need to implement that resolution as simple as that, so that at least Israel can be able to halt the occupation and be able to engage in a honest, transparent negotiation of the two-state issues. It cannot be accepted that we are moving so slow. By the time we remove or downgrade it or we cut ties, it might be too late.
And just before I let you go, if Miss South Africa goes to Israel, what are the ramifications?
Look, it will be sending a bad message to the struggle. But of course, people act differently. We think she'll be sober, she will understand and not to regret in the past, because it's going to be in the history book that many people were making an appeal to her, and nonetheless she went ahead. She will be a bad president.
All right, Mr. Nchali, thank you so much indeed for your time. So, Nati, that is Cosatu's General Secretary, Bheki Nchali, once again also stressing a very key message from the side of the Federation, echoing the sentiment, saying South Africa should really try to accelerate the pace. You go back to 2017, where the ANC spoke about downgrading of the diplomatic mission into a liaison office, where of course there won't be commercial interest pursued. It will be just merely there for consular service. So really just a strong call. But I can tell you this much, it's terribly hot here in Johannesburg North, but these activists are really undeterred. They're really sending a very strong message about Miss South Africa not to go and proceed to Israel.
Khaya, I know it's been a long day. You've been getting some really great analysis. Now, I just want to pick up on what your first speaker spoke about, the first protester you spoke to, and she made some very powerful points, saying that the protest is not about Miss South Africa. It's not about Lalela Mswane, but it is also to protect her because they feel that she is being silenced by the organization. Is that the sense that you are getting? I mean, what has the organization said? Has Miss South Africa spoken out?
Well, I tell you what, Nati, it's rather regrettable that the offices right behind us here are locked. So the organization really has had one simple message of saying that Lalela should proceed and go to Israel. You'd recall that, of course, the Minister of Arts, Sports and Culture, Nathi Mthethwa, took quite a very bold decision of saying that South Africa is withdrawing in terms of supporting her from this particular, expedition, so to speak, to go to Israel. But you do know the South African stance when it comes to the Palestinian issue. The late former President Nelson Mandela said South Africa is not really free unless there is true emancipation, there is self-determination in Palestine, also have an opportunity to reclaim their statehood and enjoy quite a number of fundamental human rights. So that has been also a very key message that the activists are highlighting, that South Africa and Palestine they are really bonded by ties that are strong. You go back to the anti-apartheid era. You go back to so many times where the late Yasser Arafat also met with Nelson Mandela, where they were speaking about the emancipation of the Palestinians. So that's a really main issue that is predicated upon as such outrage that you're seeing here today.
Right, fantastic. Khayelihle Khumalo there, just doing a fantastic job outside that protest march. Human rights organization, of course, hashtag Africa for Palestine, and its partners are protesting outside the Miss South Africa head office in Morningside. It is important to